Welcome to the APICS webinar, CPIM Transform for Today's Busy Professional, about the new streamlined CPIM program. I'm very happy to introduce our presenters for today's webinar, Kathy Imartino, Gabriella Welch, and Megan Glass. Kathy is the APICS Director of Product Development, and she'll be guiding us through the CPIM transformation today. Also presenting is Gabriella Welch, APICS Director of Certification. Gabby will be talking today about the certification process and the exam process. And Megan is the Project Manager for the 2018 CPIM Learning System, and we'll be discussing the new CPIM learning system and the product features that will be available to you. Welcome, Kathy, Gabby, and Megan.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everyone. We're so glad that you joined us today for the webinar. Today, we'll talk about the new CPIM program, why you should earn the CPIM, how to prepare and take the exam, and we'll go over some of the common questions asked about this credential. There are hundreds of you attending today, which we are very excited about, and we're looking forward to answering any questions you may have about the new program. We'll start by looking at the area of focus for CPIM, who it's designed for, and what's new with the APICS CPIM certification program. And we have a special pre-sale offer for attendees of this webinar, which we'll present near the end. Let's start by talking about what CPIM is and who it is designed for. So Certified in Production and Inventory Management, or CPIM, has an internal focus. Once you earn the CPIM designation, it can help you increase your functional knowledge of production and inventory management, maximize ROI on the systems and technologies within your organization, master the tools you need to effectively improve internal operations, gain knowledge to apply principles ERP software to cover various critical functions within your organization, earn customer satisfaction by delivering lean, just-in-time products and services, enhance your credibility within your organization, and create consistency and foster collaboration through best practices, common terminology, and corporate-wide communication. CPIM covers the body of knowledge necessary to execute, control, and improve all of the internal operations of a company as they relate to the planning throughout the planning hierarchy, from business planning through S&OP, through master scheduling to master planning of resources and execution of the production schedule. It covers inventory management throughout the planning hierarchy as well, an area that can create significant savings for companies if handled correctly. CPIM basically covers all of the activities related to the manufacturing within the four walls of the company. CSCP has a broader focus outside of the four walls of the company, and CLTD covers the deliver and return functions of the company. Gabby, can you share with everyone why CPIM is critical to supply chain success?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. So as you already know, supply chain is really all about cooperation and collaboration, interactions and interdependencies. So it helps provide you with the tools to improve your operations, increase customer satisfaction, of course, sometimes bottom line, increase the company profit. The CPIM program shows you how all of these pieces within a company fit together, and earning the designation really demonstrates a grasp of this important body of knowledge. So I want to share with you the demographics of individuals pursuing the CPIM. If you look at this chart, we've provided you with the top 10 titles that CPIM credential holders hold. So again, you might be on there, but there are plenty more that are not reported to APICS. So these are just the top 10 that we have. So Kathy, I'm wondering if you can give us a brief overview of the updated CPIM program.
Absolutely, I'd love to, Gabby. So as you all know, the workplace and work-life balance are so different today than they were when the CPIM exams first were released in the mid-70s. So over the decades, the number of CPIM exams have gone from 4 to 5. At one point, they were 6, but you only had to pass 5. And at one point, I hear there were even 7 exams. So in order to make the program more focused, we reduced the number of exams required from 5 to 2, significantly reducing the amount of time it takes to earn the CPIM. The new exams will be called Part 1 and Part 2, and will cover the same body of knowledge that the current CPIM covers, but in a more streamlined and focused way. There will be new learning systems with extensive online quizzes and flashcards, videos, and a practice exam. The learning systems can be used in either a classroom or as self-study. So many of you may be wondering what is covered in the new learning systems and how you can earn your CPIM designation. So CPIM Part 1 is for all supply chain professionals. There are no work or education experience requirements to get started. Part 1 consists of Module 1, Basics of Supply Chain Management, or BSCM. CPIM Part 2 is comprehensive internal operations training for more experienced professionals. Part 2 consists of the 4 modules listed on the slide. So Module 1 is Strategic Management of Resources, SMR. Module 2 is Master Planning of Resources, MPR. Module 3 is Detailed Scheduling and Planning, DSP. And Module 4, Execution and Control Operations, or ECO. In order to earn your CPIM designation, it's important that you understand that you must pass both Part 1 and Part 2 CPIM exams. So next we'd like to have Megan walk us through how to study for the new CPIM program. Megan?
Thanks, Kathy. So I'm going to go into a bit more detail on what we have here in the APICS CPIM learning system. This is the recommended preparation for the CPIM certification, and it contains both printed books as well as web-based study tools. These printed books are also available in e-reader format in the online tools, as well as a PDF download for offline reading. But the web-based study tools are a huge collection of educational activities that really support the reading material. There's a pre-test and a post-test, as well as section quizzes, flashcards, online activities, case studies, videos, and other helpful tools, including multiple practice tests. So the full online kit for both parts includes more than 2,000 questions for the entire program, so it's very robust. But in deciding to pursue the CPIM certification, we just want to make sure that you're not taking this commitment lightly. But we also understand how important it is to have an approach to get you successfully through the entire program. So this list is our 5 simple step approach to make sure that you're ready. So first, we want to make sure that you're choosing the appropriate study method for you. We also want to make sure you're taking time to plan your studies. And what's really important here is begin with the end in mind. Figure out when you want to schedule your exam and work backwards from there. But we also have some great tools to support you in this plan to help assess your strengths and weaknesses and really make your time valued. Then, once you've made that plan, you start to study the reading materials. So here's where you'll focus on those weak areas, the sections of the exam that are weighted more highly, and apply what you learn. So then once you've done that deep dive into the materials, you're going to get closer and closer to that exam date. You're going to want to practice by taking those practice exams, putting yourself in exam mode, and going through that practice exam emulation. And then finally, sit and take that exam. So for step 1, choose your study method, we just wanted to highlight that there are so many different ways that you can choose to learn this material. And it really just depends on what best matches your learning style and your budget. So the learning system itself is designed for people who wish to self-study, but if you prefer to study with others, many APICS partners offer instructor-led courses and study groups which also use these learning system materials. So this is really a great option that provides additional benefit of expert instruction and the support of a community where you have opportunities for discussion with peers and the ability to really deep dive and review those materials. So you can check for a local chapter or a partner in your area, and for more details on where you can go to figure out where there might be a class, you can visit the link that's on this slide. But if you're a part of an organization, or perhaps you want to do a self-study group with some of your colleagues and would like to take advantage of some volume discounts, You can also receive guidance from our corporate development group on how to organize an in-house class. So once you've decided your study method, the next step is to plan your studies. So the number one question that we often get from candidates is, how much time does it take to get ready for the exam? How much time do I need to study? And it really depends on you as an individual. Every person learns differently. Everyone learns at a different pace. So study times can vary based on years of experience, the expertise you have in the supply chain, and also on your study method, as well as how quickly you might read or comprehend some of the topics. But I just wanted to highlight some things that are really about making your study time most effective through the learning system. We have designed this for adult learners. It's specifically created to condense the time that it takes to prepare for these exams and focus on that CPIM content, focus on the learning tools and the practice questions. So we've really set this up to help you identify and focus on topics that you need to master in order to complete the certification process. So part of that is a tool we have called the Smart Study tool, which provides options depending on the time that you have to commit to your studying. But really one of the most important things that you can do is to start early. So once you've created a plan and you've picked that exam date, stick to it. So we've included some study time estimates in the learning system that will give you an idea of length of time to spend on each of the individual tools. But average study times in the learning system are based on numbers of pages you have to read, the number of online questions that are available to you, and reviewing other tools like flashcards and learning activities. So the first activity that you should do after watching the introduction video is to take the pretest. The pretest is weighted to the exam, and it allows students to access their current level of understanding. So you can use this information not only to plug into the Smart Study tool and figure out where your current strengths and weaknesses are, but you can also use it to assess your progress as you move through the materials. So this is a very key tool for you to use right away when you first log in. Then what you'll do is take that information and input it into the Smart Study tool. So this is what is going to help you to work back from your chosen exam date and take full advantage of all those tools that are included in the prep materials. So after you take that pretest, you input those results into this tool, and you can either use it as an Excel file or as a PDF. And once you've input those pretest scores, you can also input your own personal level of comfort. And then this personalized timed study plan is output. It's weighted against the exam, so you can focus on the areas that you need to when you're going through the rest of the system. So once you've determined your plan, obviously the next step is to then study the materials. So the CPIM learning system covers the entire exam content manual, and the reading materials work hand in hand with those online tools. So you want to make sure you're not skipping the reading and you're not skipping using those online questions, flashcards, and other tools. Overall, between both parts, you're going to be going through about 1,500 pages of content and 2,000 online questions. And that can seem extremely daunting at first, but the way that we've designed this system is really to create small digestible chunks, section by section, so it's easy to learn and reinforce along the way. But when you're first kind of starting to tackle those study efforts, you will want to start by reading the materials first. And as I noted earlier, the reading materials will be available in the online tool in an embedded e-reader. And this text in the e-reader is reflowable, so you can read it on any device you'd like, a phone, a tablet, on your laptop. And there's an interactive table of contents. You can bookmark, and you can view in full screen. But if you know that you're not going to have online access all of the time, you can download a PDF version of the materials for offline reading. So the study section also includes video content. Overall, there's going to be 6 instructional videos in the online tools, which will focus on key concepts from the section. So for part 1, there'll be 2 videos, and for part 2, there's going to be 4, so 1 for each module. Then the online component overall is organized by module, as Kathy kind of outlined in the list of topics. Each module will include access to the electronic version of the reading materials. There's an online glossary and flashcards to practice those key terms. online quizzes organized by section, and learning activities that let you apply the concepts in real-world examples. So step 4 is to practice the concepts. So as you read through the materials, you want to make sure that you're understanding and mastering those concepts. So using those online quizzes and activities as reinforcement are extremely important. But just so you're aware, when you're going through the quizzes, they do provide you immediate feedback after you answer a question, so you know if you answered it right or wrong, and it'll give you feedback to kind of explain the right answer, and give you a reference back to the reading materials if you want to review and study that content in more depth. So the system, because it's tracking all of this, it will track your progress through these tools, so you can continue to watch your progress, see your areas of strength and weakness as you move through the sections, and focus on the areas that need the most review for you. Also for step 4 is really practicing those concepts using the practice exams. So we posed a question in the registration form about which exam resource you're most interested in, and the majority of you are most interested in these practice exams. So the practice exams are part of the learning system, and they really allow you to experience the format and functionality of taking the computer-based APICS CPIM exam. So the practice test is timed, just like the actual CPIM exam, and the time remaining is shown at the top header. You also have the option to flag questions that you want to return to. Before you complete the exam, you'll have a review opportunity, and you can review your questions before submitting for marking. So because this is an emulation, you won't see the right and wrong answers or those rationale as you go through the test. However, this feedback is available after you submit it for marking, so you can go back and look at your individual results by question. And this is just such a great tool to help calm your nerves and give you a great idea of what to expect on exam day. So before I kind of hand it over to Gabby to talk a little bit more about taking the exam and moving on to that final step, I just wanted to go through some key tips that you can remember when you're trying to prepare for these exams. So there's a lot of different ways that you can successfully study for the exam. Choosing the best method that's suited for you is extremely important. So self-study, instructor-led, or a study group. Create that plan. Start by setting your exam date and commit to it. This is really going to help you to avoid procrastination. Identify your strengths and weaknesses on those exam topics. You need to be familiar with the ECM to know you're studying each of these topics. And the learning system quizzes are a great tool for helping to identify these areas and focus your study time. And just make sure that you are going beyond just memorizing. The test isn't just going to be about recalling knowledge items. It will ask you to apply those concepts, so make sure that you understand them well. And we also suggest at the end in the practice section of the program, there's a video by APICS instructor Liesl Smith, which goes through techniques for successfully taking APICS exams. And this video is not only included in the learning system, but can also be purchased separately in Shop APICS. But this video is great. It shares a lot of techniques to achieve the highest score possible on your exam and has a lot of tips for non-native English language speakers as well. And finally, the best way to ease test anxiety is to know what to expect on exam day. So know where that testing center is located. Know what the process is going to be when you get there, what to expect in terms of that test format functionality. And again, to help you with that last item, we have those great resources online to help you prepare. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Gabby because there are a bunch of other resources that are going to help CPIM exam candidates.
Great, thank you, Megan. So now that you have all the information about the learning system and studying, I want to walk you through the exam. So first off, I'll start with the APICS CPIM exam content manual, which you might hear called the ECM. And that's one of the most important resources that actually talks to the structure of the exam. The ECM outlines the CPIM tested body of knowledge, and it's included in the courseware. It contains a bibliography of the additional reading materials used to actually create the exam questions. You can purchase the CPIM ECM standalone copy in Shop APICS. But actually, for those who are APICS members, we have some new benefits rolling out at the end of August. And we haven't really announced it yet. You all are the first to hear about this. And I don't even think our panelists know about this yet. But I'm really excited to announce that we have some new member benefits and we'll actually be providing the electronic ECM to those members. So that's just another reason to become an APICS member. Another fantastic resource is the APICS Dictionary and Learn It app, which are also essential supply chain references, and again, free to members. So the app has about 4,500 terms from the dictionary, and it includes flashcards and a word of the day. So it's a really, really useful tool. There are also test-taking tips and an instructional video, and I know we mentioned the Liesl Smith video over and over, so it's really important that you review that. And you can find those at apics.org. And then finally, if you need additional information about the actual testing process and the testing centers, please go ahead and review the APICS exam handbook. So even though you should review your handbook right before taking your exam, we actually recommend reading the handbook during your studies as well. And then finally, we have step 5, taking the exam. So all of our APICS exams are actually delivered on demand worldwide at Pearson VUE testing centers. Each CPIM exam is comprised of 150 test questions, and you have up to 3.5 hours to complete your exam. And I would actually suggest that you go ahead and you schedule your exam when you begin your studies. So this actually helps with a few things. It helps set up a test date to reach your goal and structure your study timeline. It helps to ensure available seating. It discourages test procrastination. And finally, it absolutely ensures a high level of success in meeting your certification objectives. So in general, we found that candidates who test within 3 months of completing their instruction, so once you finish your training, within 3 months, go ahead and sit for the exam, because you'll have a much higher success rate in passing the exam. Okay, so you know about the exam, you know about the learning system, you have your location, you have your references, but you really need to know the build out of the exam, which is why the ECM, again, is so important. All questions are based on the information contained in the list of ECM references. So this is one of the many ways that APICS ensures that our certification reflects industry-accepted best practices. When you're taking an exam, some people tend to focus on a term rather than the actual question. So you need to be sure that you take the time to understand what the question is actually asking you before narrowing down some possible answers. So these strategies are covered in the Liesl video. Now with the computer-based testing, we provide you with a flagging system that is very similar to what Megan announced in the learning system. And it allows you to mark or flag questions that you're not really sure of and that you want to revisit later in the exam. So this helps in jogging your memory later on, but it also helps you move through the exam more efficiently, and then you can come back to the exam question that you have issues with or concerns with. So you can go back to the flagged questions, you can try to reason through the answer, and then you'll be sure to eliminate the answers that you know are wrong. That usually tends to leave you with about 2 possible answers to choose from. So read the question again carefully and then take your best shot. Okay, so let's talk about exam day. So your exam day is finally here. You need to know what to do. Well, hopefully at this point you've already read the exam handbook and you're all prepared. But just in case, here are some other healthy tips for a great test experience. So this checklist will help ease some of your anxiety. You can also find detailed exam day prep information in the exam handbook. So it's really helpful to reduce any stress-generating situations immediately prior to taking your test. So being prepared on the process and arriving early will only set you up for success. Okay, great. So you took the exam and you probably passed with flying colors, right? So what's next? So immediately after you take the exam, you're going to actually get a score report right at the testing center immediately after your exam. Now you'll need to wait about 24 hours of passing your exam before it's actually reported to your APICS account. So the day after you take your exam, go ahead and log into your My APICS account. Candidates often forget about this after they pass the exam and earn the certification. But there's so many resources in your My APICS account that you really want to take advantage of it, because really it was created for you. In your My APICS account, you can actually scroll down to your My APICS certification section. You can order your paper certificate there. You can download an e-certificate. You can download your information into LinkedIn to promote your credentials through social media. That's one of the really, really important promoters that we have. You can do your score report, and you can even mail your certification information to a third party. So your employer, possible employers. We have a lot of tools and resources for you. And these are great ways to actually promote your credentials. We also offer a verification tool available to the public. So credential verification is actually a service that elevates the credibility of your APICS credentials. So anyone can look up an individual's active certification status on this page. So you might have an employer or a potential employer that really wants to verify your credentials. They can go ahead and go to apics.org/verification and view your information there. And then finally, you can maintain that certification that you own. So to maintain the CPIM certification, you are required to pursue activities to support ongoing professional development over a 5-year period. And you can find more information in the Certification Maintenance Handbook. Okay, so I know we have a lot of some really good questions waiting for us, but before we get to the Q&A session, let's review a few common questions.
Yeah, so one of the questions that I'm sure you all have out there, and I've seen a couple come through already, is what are the costs of the new materials? So here are the costs for the CPIM learning systems and the exams. So as you can see, it pays for you to become a member before purchasing either the learning system or exam. Keep in mind that many of our U.S. chapters and international partners, they offer these CPIM classes. And so those prices are set by the chapter and the partner and not by APICS. So the price listed here may vary slightly by the partner. And with that, we'll talk about why you should invest in the CPIM program.
So we all know that every great investment needs what? Some seed money. So you have to start somewhere. Here are some of the key ways many of our exam candidates get the funds they need to prepare for the CPIM exam. So you could have corporate tuition reimbursement, corporate training, tax breaks for education, job training programs, and even military benefits. So for veterans or active duty, there's some benefits out there for you that you can take advantage of. If your company doesn't provide these incentives, you need to ask. It's always worth investigating. So Megan, the question that we always get from potential candidates is how to find time to study and take the exam. And I know that we had a conversation the other day and you had some really good advice for candidates. Can you share those?
Yeah, and actually I think the biggest issue that a lot of people face is it never feels like it's the right time. And it's just important to remember that there's rarely a perfect time to make this commitment to certification. Everyone has busy lives, and we never really have enough time to do everything that we want to accomplish. But certification, especially for yourself and also for your company, it's extremely important to make a priority. And it doesn't have to take over your entire life. It really just comes down to making a realistic study plan that works for you and that works for your schedule. So it really kind of comes back to a few key things in terms of planning to take this exam. So first, we need to determine the amount of time it takes to study. And so when it comes down to sort of recommendations, we do recommend it will take about a minimum of 75 hours to prepare. And again, it will depend on your background and how quick you are at reading and that kind of thing. But it's also extremely important that if you want to be successful, that you take this exam within 3 months of completing the learning system. The longer that you wait after you complete your studies, the more you're going to be forgetting. So it's extremely important to take the exam after you're fresh. And then also that smart study tool that's in the learning system, it's an extremely helpful tool, especially when you first dive in and after taking that pretest, figuring out where those important topics are that you need to focus on. It's really going to help you to not waste that valuable study time. So, I mean, what it comes down to essentially is that the learning system is made for busy professionals, and we want to help you to use your time wisely and get you ready for exam day. So, Kathy, I know you had a poll that you were hoping people could fill out.
Yeah, I do, and those are excellent points, Megan. Thanks for bringing those up. So before we continue with our special offers, I promise we are going to get to those special offers and review cost a little bit and go over some Q&A. We do have a quick poll that we'd like you to fill out. It's going to pop up on your screen, and we'll pause for a few moments so that you can submit your answers. Great. So it looks like overwhelmingly about more than half of you haven't started your CPIM journey yet, and that is fantastic. We're so glad that you've joined us and that you're hopefully getting some more information so that you know how to continue on your journey or start your journey. So based on the results from those polls, I think you're going to be excited about the learning system pre-sale offers that we have going on right now for you, our webinar attendees. So if you order an individual copy of the APICS CPIM learning system, either part 1 or part 2, between August 8th, which is today, and the end of the month, August 31st, 2017, and use the code NEW CPIM50, you will get $50 off the cost of the learning system. Now, if you're really interested in saving some more money, you can get maximum savings on the CPIM certification. And if you're an APICS Plus member, you can purchase the CPIM learning system and exam bundle, which includes the CPIM learning system for part 1 and part 2, as well as exams for both. You need to use the code NEWBUNDLE100 for $100 off the CPIM learning systems and exam bundles. So those are some really great sale options we have going on now through the end of the month, and we hope that you take advantage of them. You can also go to the URL on the screen or call the phone number that was listed, and we could place orders that way. So now we've saved some time for Q&A. We'll give you a few more moments to send in your questions, and we'll answer as many as we can. All right, so we have a number of questions here about when pre-sale orders will begin shipping. So pre-sale, as I mentioned, is going on now, the 8th through the end of the month, which is the 31st. Those orders will actually be shipped starting on August 28th. So for those of you who are looking for either part 1 or part 2 materials, you can expect that those will be shipped out by the 28th, and we're accepting orders for those now.
So Kathy, I just wanted to hop in. It'll be the week of the 28th, just because of the volume. So it may not actually ship out on that date. So we will be sending out confirmations if you do the pre-order, so you know when to expect your materials.
Great, thanks for that clarification, Megan. We've also had a number of questions about if you've already taken your CPIM basics, is that the equivalent of part 1? And yes, it is the equivalent for part 1 exam. You do not have to retake that.
That's correct. So if you took the basics exam and passed it within the last 10 years, then we can use that in lieu of CPIM part 1, and all you need to do is take part 2 to obtain the CPIM certification.
I see a question that just came through about a recording of the session. We will have a recording for the session that will be posted later on, along with all of the FAQs.
And I will say, and I know we mentioned this before, we have a lot of questions strolling through, which is great. And so what we're going to do is you'll receive all of these questions and answers. So we are trying to pull some of these questions, but they're actually going so fast because we have so many questions coming through, which is great. So let's see. One question is, can I switch from the 5 exam format to the 2 exam format? Absolutely. So if you're already currently coming through your the CPIM using the 5, what we call legacy exams, you do have the option to continue on with those 5 before they end, or you can switch over to the 2 exam configuration. And we can provide you some more information on that.
I also saw a question about who is the appropriate contact if we want to schedule a corporate or a group class or study group. And actually, if you go to the website, there's an email address there, but I'll give it to you now as well. The contact for that will be Bobby Quickstad. So it's Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, and the letter Q, at apicslearningsystems.com. So that email address is on the corporate page for the CPIM Learning System website as well, but he'll be able to talk you through how to get a class like that going, number of people, and things like that. And there was another question as well about the Smart Study tool. That is included in the learning system. It is not a tool that you can purchase separately because it is related to the content that's in the learning system. So the study times that are in there are directly related to how many pages there are for each section, how many questions are in each quiz, and things like that.
And Megan, do you want to touch a little bit about how long people have access to the learning system and the online tools?
Yeah, so the online tools, you'll have access for 12 months from date of purchase. So when you make that purchase, not for the pre-sale, obviously, you'll have to wait for that launch date to happen, but on the day that that is released and then going forward, immediately that day you'll get an email from the system after you make the purchase where you'll set up your account. And from that day forward, you'll have 12 months to use all those online tools.
Great, thank you. So we have actually a number of questions coming in about costs again. So we're going to actually go back to the slide with the costs. And then we'll just leave that up for a little, oh, there we go. And so this gives the cost breakdown for both the exams and the learning systems for self-study for Part 1 and Part 2. So these are all US dollars. We can also go over the cost, the pre-sale savings that we have going on as well. So we'll leave this screen up for another minute or two and see if we have any additional questions about it.
So while people are reviewing the screen here, I saw a few questions about the e-reader material, so I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. They are exactly the same content as the printed books. So whether you have that PDF download or the e-reader in the online tool, they're all going to be the same material. So you can hop back and forth between those if that's something that you like to do. And for the e-reader component, there is not a spot for taking notes, but there is bookmarking available. And also the PDF download will allow you to take notes and make highlights and things like that if that's something that you like to do in your materials.
Great, thank you. So we had a question about testing, when the testing starts. So we'll do the pre-sale for the exam. So you can actually purchase your exam or your exam credit, or if it's included in the bundle, beginning August 31st. So if you need to take the exam, you want to purchase it, it's August 31st is when we go on pre-sale. Now to actually take the exam, Part 1 delivery, where you can actually sit for the exam, begins September 30th. And then Part 2 will begin November 4th.
And then can you tell us, Gabby, when the ATT, the authorization to test, actually starts the 6-month countdown?
Yes, thank you, Kim. So we're actually going to provide you some additional time. So if you're familiar with our exam credit or ATT process, for the CPIM, they're valid for 6 months from the time of purchase. But since we're not starting the delivery of the exams until either September 30th or the November 4th, you actually have some additional time. So if you purchase an exam credit or ATT beginning August 31st, your clock won't start ticking until September 30th or November 4th. So you get more than 6 months. So if you buy it now or August 31st, then we'll give you about, I think that's about 7 months. So you'll have plenty of time to study and schedule your exam and sit for your exam. So it's actually worth a little bit more with that extra month.
So there's been a couple more questions in here about, do I have to purchase this separately, or is this included? Do I need additional resources? So I just wanted to kind of give a high level of this learning system again. The online component, in terms of how it relates to the books, it's a support system. So you'll want to read the materials and then take the quizzes. They do directly relate section by section. You read a section and you take a section quiz. And in addition, people were asking about, do I need to look at outside reading materials? Do I need to reference the dictionary? When the learning system is created, those reference materials were used to create the learning system, and the dictionary is used for those key terms. So that online glossary that I mentioned, those terms and definitions are directly from the APICS dictionary. So all of that is following exactly what that exam content manual is outlining. So you should be able to purchase the learning system, use all of the tools, and be able to sit for the exam.
Thank you. So I have one more that we had a couple of questions on testing locations and scheduling. So as I mentioned previously, they're on-demand testing, which means you can locate a testing center within your area, and I'll provide you with some information in just a few seconds. And you can schedule it at your convenience within your authorization period. So if you have a 6-month or more authorization period, then you have the ability to schedule at your convenience as long as the testing center near you or the one that you want to attend is available. And so if you do have questions about the testing locations, we will certainly add that to the Q&A when we send this out to everyone. But you can also visit www.pearsonview.com/APICS.
All right, so that's all the time we have for questions today. We will definitely consolidate all of the questions received. There have been a lot of really great questions. We'll make sure to consolidate those, and even if they weren't covered today in the webinar, and we'll answer them in the Q&A document that will be posted on apics.org. You'll receive an email with a link, usually within a week.
Thanks, Kathy. And then just before we go, I just want to point out some additional resources that will actually help you on your journey. So good luck to everyone.
All content and materials included in this online event are the property of APICS and are protected by the United States and international copyright laws. All rights are reserved. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for participating.